scheduled for 9 o'clock. I don't know if it's put it out there yet or not.
Says it is.
Yeah. Call it till then or just let her go?
Got 4 minutes.
Want me to stop it?
Thank you.
I'm not saying, that's what I said.
You're so far away, I can't see you this morning.
That works pretty well.
You want me to move closer?
I'm not sure.
I know what you look like.
That's good enough.
That's
And that's not a good sign, probably.
why I brought down the mics. I think, as long as we're doing our best. Shawnee County has one of their commissioners.
What you gotta do with these to make them work.
This is where Bob.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
But we're not doing, but we're not doing anything yet, right?
I'm sorry.
50 years ago, they had more experience than I am now. I
That's
said 50 years ago today, I was more experience than I am now about this. I got on a plane in for Vietnam 50 years ago.
You know, I'm not concerned about this thing at all, but, you know, somebody here in Hall County came down. Okay, there's 2 in Lyon County now.
One in Franklin.
One in Franklin's been there for 10
Yeah.
days. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I had it for Vietnam, but absolutely wasn't good.
Could have been worse. Came back.
Pardon?
I came back. I came back.
Captain's brother Jim, he was over, he's in the Marine Corps, he's over there 3 times. Our CP time, we didn't think we did anything yesterday. Because there was just a lot of them had nothing in there.
He goes over there.
Yes.
What do you think?
It's 9 o'clock,
Okay,
my
great.
cell phone.
Correct.
You're ready? Stand, join. Flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we've got a few additions to the agenda today. At 10:10, Sheriff Randy Rogers was planning to come in and talk about Coffee County Lake. And then, I don't know how much time he's gonna need, if it's 20 minutes or so. And then Connie Lawrence for personnel. Personnel matters. And then about 10:30, if it works with our schedule, Emergency Management Director Russell Stuckey and Health Department Administrator Lindsay Pear would like to come in and talk about COVID-19.
Okay, perfect.
Morning, Mark.
Excuse me.
Our first item on the agenda will be the minutes from last week.
I could get you to talk into the microphones a little more. Is this better?
I so move.
That worked.
Second.
Having been motioned and seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, who's seconded?
Don seconded. Opposed, same sign. I'll abstain. Motion carries 3-0-1. And our miscellaneous motion, excuse me, miscellaneous motions. Upon the recommendation of Health Department Administrator, move to authorize and direct the chairman to sign a letter of support to the Blue Cross Blue Shield Pathways for the grant application of the Coffee County Wellness Coalition.
So move.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Another motion, move to appoint Craig Nickel, District 2, as a member of the Coffee County Planning Board, effective immediately, term ending April 30th, 2021.
Also move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion?
I think this is a replacement or a fill-in.
This is an open position, haven't had anybody in it for some time.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Move to reappoint Don Voorhees, District 3, as a member of the Coffee County Airport Board to a 3-year term, effective May 18th, 2020, and ending May 17th, 2023.
I'll move.
Bob is moved,
Second.
Tom is seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. Move to reappoint Lowell Wood, from District 1, as a member of the Coffee County Airport Board to a 3-year term, effective May 18th, 2020, and ending May 18th, 2023.
So move.
Tom is moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Bob is seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0.
There's one more, Cody. A motion from the Register of Deeds Office to move to authorize and direct the chairman to sign a Coffee County payroll notice for Robin Byer, part-time Register of Deeds Office, position CA5, wage of $18 an hour, effective 4/1/2020.
I'll move. Second.
Bob is moved. Tom is seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries 4-0. Norman, if you're ready.
Sure. I'm here.
Well, do we have another microphone?
Yours is the only one that's a mobile one.
Oh, we do have the podium around the corner.
Is this the hot seat?
Move Mark right over there. Move Mark over there and you stand right there where Mark is.
You sit right in front.
The other way, Pete.
Okay,
Mark. Mark.
Good morning. I'm representing the St. John's Cemetery, between Badure and Underwood on 10th Road. We had a funeral here last month. We had a little difficulties with some vehicles. Slick on top, was kind of needing some gravel. We thought maybe people would help us out. If you have any questions, I can try to answer them. I don't know what your policy was.
That'd be on 10th Road.
Yeah, on 10th Road. The cemetery is on 10th Road.
Right.
Yes.
And the road itself is what's,
No, the cemetery.
the cemetery itself is needing around.
Yeah. Well, the road does too. All of 10th Road there, 4-mile stretch of there.
Any idea on the length of drive that you need rock on, Norm? Any rough estimate on tonnage of rock?
Ron Durst was out there last week with myself, and we was looking it over. He kind of run a fast measurement on. He came up with like 800 foot, and he's thinking anywhere from, this is just a guesstimate, anywhere from 50 to 90 tons.
Is that right, Wayne?
Yes, yeah. Brian provided me this as well, so.
Oh,
Here's
okay.
the, if I may, this is the cemetery here. So that's a cemetery there. And yes, he's 800 feet, right?
That's ballpark, yeah.
Yeah, and so 2 inches would be 60 tons, $540 for gravel. 3 inches would be 90 tons, $810 for gravel. And that's mostly for the horseshoe, and then also right down the center is what you're looking at.
2 inches sufficient.
Well, it'd be up north.
Ron suggested 3. So I would have to agree with it.
What is the normal policy on cemetery? I mean, I know they're on board, but I mean, we normally.
We've been every direction on those, I think. Depends on our mood.
I'm not sure we've got a policy in place other than we've been a player in dressing up cemeteries. That may not be the right word, but putting a fence on the front of it occasionally. We've also done a little bit of work out here 3 miles east on that cemetery, improving the drainage. So I'm not sure we got a policy in place, but we've always been there to help.
Are you planning on working that area soon anyway, or no?
Well, as far as, it's about the same as most roads. We were on it last week, so, I mean, there's always more to be done. On this particular one, it's not a township cemetery, right?
Correct.
Okay, it is it's the church. It's a church cemetery.
Oh, okay.
That's the only difference. So there is no tax money associated because it's not a township cemetery. But it's also too is we had done cemetery work. Was it Rock Creek Cemetery? The one just east of the Coffee County Lake or Wolf Creek Lake, or the Coffee County Lake. So
That's one we did the drainage on.
that's the one we did the drainage on, and we did some gravel.
And we put
there.
some rock in it also.
Then we also did up there, Waverly. We done the cemetery up there.
But those were not private cemeteries, were they?
I'm not for sure. I don't think so. Waverly one, I can't really answer on that one. Rock Creek, I think that was a township one. Those are the 2 that I can think of that we have done some gravel on. So, this one would be more type of a community type thing. What you're looking at, I would feel that it would be like what you're making a contribution towards the funds or the cost associated with the community function.
Would we be providing the equipment as necessary, I mean, as well to spread it? I assume.
I assume you would, yeah.
I don't have a problem.
This is just material costs of what we have.
Right.
Right, was that road rock, clean rock, or what?
It'd be like our 1 inch rock, but our road rock.
If we go 3 inches, what'd you say the 2 inches cost?
The difference is the 540 versus the 810. I mean, if you're gonna do it, I'd probably do the 3. There's not a lot of gravel out there on that road anyway. And the idea is to build it back up so you can get some drainage. They had a couple services here within the last couple of months, as you all know. And so with that, it just pointed out or made something worse. And that was being able to get back there, not only on our county roads, but also on their roads as well. So.
But again, I don't have an issue with finding some rock and labor to accommodate them.
Cody, I think that's probably in your area, but also move that we proceed and the 3 inches ended up what, $900?
810 material costs, so.
So move to provide the rock and lay the rock down appropriately and not to exceed $1,000.
Well, I would say just, if you'd like, since we've already talked about the material costs expected to be about 810, so just to direct the county road and bridge to place 3 inches of rock on the drives of approximately 800 feet for the cemetery. And what we'll do then, because the cost may be more than 1,000.
Yeah.
That's why I just, yeah.
Okay.
If that would be.
You're talking about something include labor though.
Yeah, you're talking equipment, costs, all
It won't take long to lay it down.
that. It won't take long. No, we'd be done in a couple hours.
However you feel like that motion needs to be made, I'd so move.
Funds come from community improvement.
If that's how you'd like to finish it, it would seem appropriate, but
Yeah.
I leave that up to you.
I think,
Reserve or community, general fund community?
General fund improvement. We run out of that, we can always transfer.
Then at the end of the day, we'll just send you the ticket. I mean, that's ultimately what we're doing.
need a second.
A motion to direct road and bridge to place 3 inches of rock on the roads at the St. John Lutheran Church Cemetery on 10th Road. Funds to come from the general fund, community improvement. Don has moved. I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. I've got another issue on the cemetery out there. We've understood in the past that you have, not all cemeteries, but have done some fence work. And what we'd like to see is some vinyl fence there on, next to the road to replace that fence that's there now. And I've got some figures for you. I don't know if you want them at this time, or you need to think about this, or what your thoughts are.
What's there now?
Excuse me?
What is there now?
An old wire fence with steel posts.
I'd like time to think about it. I mean, we had an address or a concern he put on the agenda. We took care of that, and now keep popping up other concerns I'd like to think about this.
Well, and I know in the past at Prairie View and Glendale cemeteries, because I was the one that did the work, I re-rocked their roads and removed their old fence and chose to go back with no fence at that time. Again, it was still an aesthetic improvement, but they just took it out completely.
How much length is it? What's the length of that front, Norman?
There's about, probably around 650 foot,
650?
650 to 700.
What type of fence are you proposing, or you're suggesting you'd like to do?
a vinyl fence with a 4x4 vinyl, two of them, plus the post in between there. Similar to the one you did down on Loeb Cemetery, there east of Leroy on Zurich Road and south about a half mile.
I think the rails on it, I think were 2x6s, I think. I know they weren't 4x4s. The posts, I think, are 4x4s.
You might be right.
What's your projected cost on that?
Around $13,000.
I'll just say this, Norm, I have no problem with the gravel to help people so they can get in and out from the cemetery, but this is a private cemetery, and if you, my opinion is, if you want to put a fence around it, then that should come from your organization. I think that somewhere we've got to draw a line on some of the things we do. I'm willing to help get people in and out for funerals and that stuff, but just for the cosmetic look, I think that's your concern. That's where I had on it.
Yep. Understand.
You know, I can look at both sides on that, Bob, but might give us a little bit of time to think. I'm surprised it's $13,000.
Well, we're estimating the fence itself at $8,400. $83.
I think the one we put in Loeb, and could be way off, but it wasn't over $2,000 or $3,000, or maybe $4,000. I could be way off on that. I know it wasn't nothing like the numbers you throw down.
Well, I talked to Sean Strawder, and he estimated that, he looked up his figures from Loeb, and it was $2,500 labor to put that in. I do not know what the fence material was.
I don't recall either. Yeah, I understand it's totally a private, there's no tax base on it. And I do know what it looks like, and there are services there, several every year, unfortunately. We might do do a little checking on it. We can evaluate it a little bit later, if you would like.
Okay, I appreciate the time, and thank you for your services.
Thank you, Norman.
Brad? Do you need the microphone? I don't need the microphone. I think we can hear pretty good. Okay. And I'm gonna move this just a little bit so you can see Tom's smiling face.
Yeah.
Reason I wanted to talk to you, and it's just kind of information and basically permission to help the community with this COVID virus issue we're having. The fiber board and the schools, especially the schools, because they are doing internet-based communications now, they would like to put an antenna or an access point on the outside of the JSB building to allow students to come and connect to the internet there and be able to do their homework and things like that. They don't know yet if they want to put it on the tower beside it or on a post, that's currently above the JSB building. It's just, I want to let you know we're talking about doing that. I asked Russell, he said he thought it would be okay. And just want to let you know what was going on. If that is okay. Now I want to thank the extension office emergency management, and the courtroom for providing all this stuff so we can do this down here.
Yep.
So, I just want to let you know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wayne,
Randy,
Randy?
The only thing I would like to interject that if we've been working over the weekend, throughout the weekend, I'm just trying to project things, okay? The JSB may need to be utilized because it has some living quarters in it, et cetera, that we are actually, are putting into part of our plans, continuity of operations plans. That's worst case scenario type stuff.
Right.
But I've got to project out, I throw that out there, just so if down the road, we may have to adjust again.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea. I'm in support of it 100%. I just want to throw that out there in the back of people's minds. That's all.
Wayne, if you're ready.
I have quite a few items to cover, and some of them that I didn't have initially in the motions, but I'd like to cover today. Is there a certain procedure as far as handing out additional documents if you have, or give it to
No, this
Donna
time.
and let it go around?
Yeah, just pass them around.
Okay. Well, I'll go with what's in the book for right now. So one road permit, no zoning permits. We have the dust control reward, and that'd be for the magnesium chloride. And then also to review an award for the cold mix patch. So I believe those are already in your book. The road permit is, copies are here. That was not in your book. And on the magnesium chloride, what you see is a bid of $1.13. What they had last year, always something I look back at as well. They had $1 and .095. Scott was bid last year, so it did go up a little bit. The cold mix is last year. The low bid was 8-pack. And we had $62.50 is what the cost was for us to pick up that 8-pack. Now we see kilo, the low bid at $59.50. I believe you'll find that to be reflective of oil prices. But those would be the two motions I'd ask that we move forward on and approve as low bid.
The motion 2020-12, based upon the recommendation of the county engineer, move that the bid submitted by Scottwood Industries Incorporated in the amount of $1.13 per gallon be approved as the best bid for magnesium chloride, and the award be made according to the terms of the bid dated March 18th, 2020, to be paid from the road and bridge fund.
As I move.
Tom has moved.
Second.
Don has seconded. All in favor?
Quick, sure. And what are we charging the taxpayers?
I believe we're was it $1.50 a foot?
$1.50.
Yes.
I just want to point out that probably next year we're going to be looking at an increase in that because we've been losing money on that for quite a while. So just make everybody aware of that. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Motion 2020-18, based upon the recommendation of the county engineer, move to approve the purchase of asphalt cold mix patching material as needed for the 2020 projects from Kilo Construction. price of $59.50 per ton. This award is made according to the terms of the bid dated March 18th, 2020, to be paid from Road and Bridge Fund.
Also move.
Tom has moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
John has seconded. Any questions?
Can we haul that for $10 a ton? Is that what it is, $59.50 a ton?
$59.50 a ton.
Can we haul it for $10 a ton?
I believe it's more of an operational type thing. I understand the logic onto it, is that if we have material that's close to the northern border, we're just over there picking it up. If otherwise, if they haul it, they have to haul it to the shop.
Okay.
And so then we move all of our operations to the shop and pick it up. So at this point, yeah, I follow that, but it's always been best for us just to pick it up.
All in favor? Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0.
Okay, the one that I did not have in your book, we received the bids here Monday, and this would be for the 6 bridges for the bridge deck repair. And so one is the motion, the other is the bid tabulation sheet, and I'll go over both of those. Trying to make you reach. Sorry. We started the process in February 18th, was the motion basically to put it out for bid. We did receive bids on the 16th of March. What you're going to find at the very bottom, there's 2 pages. What you're finding is the engineer's estimate, PBX Corporation, PCI Roads, and Wildcat Construction Company were the bidders on the project. At the very bottom, I mean, they're tabulating each bridge, but at the very bottom is the total cost. And so what you're seeing in the motion is a little bit different. It's to say not to exceed $1,129,491 as per bridge documents. What that means is when you follow the column down for PBX Corporation, they are the low bid. We did check references with companies that they have been worked with counties that they have been worked with. We feel comfortable with their bid with this company. What you're seeing is 2 prices. You're seeing $1,129,491, and then you're seeing another price, which is alternate number 2, which shows $949,966. The difference between those is the polymer for the concrete patching. Now, why I'm going up for the highest number is I'm using it as an option. So to give you an idea that when they're doing the patching, you could have an additional 20 days added to the closing of the bridge if we just use concrete, high strength concrete versus the polymer. If we use the polymer, we could open the bridge within a matter of a couple days by using the polymer patch. So we're trying to be selective, at least allow that option, but we will be selective on some of the bridges that we possibly keep closed a little bit longer versus some of the other bridges that we'd want to open up very quickly. And so that's the reason why it's not to exceed. Now, keeping in mind too, that if it does exceed that, which it possibly could, because once they take the asphalt off, there could be more areas that need to be patched. It's going to be added. But just like all contracts is, once we exceed what the estimated contract quantity is, we come back to the commission for approval of the change order. But for right now, what we're asking is to move forward to PBX Corporation as low bid for this project.
Longevity of polymer versus high strength, in your opinion?
The biggest thing is the strength. My personal opinion, I believe that the polymer is going to have more polymers to stick into a rugged surface versus concrete. If you put the concrete in there, you don't get the moisture exactly right. It's not adhering to the old surface quite as well. potentially pop out. It's not to say polymer couldn't pop out either, but I think polymer has more ability to adhere to an existing surface and to give us the strength that we're wanting rather quickly. So.
We use polymer overlays many times.
I was gonna say, I don't see what the advantage of not going with polymer. Well, you save in time and reopening the bridge for all the bridges, for all of them.
Especially the one there at Leroy that's gonna be shut down for a month. I'd hate to add 2 or 3 more weeks with that bridge and shut it down 2 months. The length of time there, I know money's important, fully realized, but I'd sure hate to expand that another 2 or 3 weeks to get that bridge open.
I apologize, what was the difference again between the polymer?
On the very last, it's the difference is 1,129,491 versus 949,966.
Got a difference of 180,000
So,
for the 6 bridges. And you know, that extra cost, your projected extra cost was 550,000. They're polymer, they came in with what appears to be a very attractive bid compared to the engineering projection.
yes. What we're gonna have too is, it's not gonna be just one bridge at a time, they're gonna do 2 bridges. And I instructed them to say, okay, say for example, do the old Highway 50 bridge, then the next bridge could be possibly at the same time, because they're gonna be doing sequencing. The next bridge could be possibly 12th Road, okay? So the idea is not to close 2 bridges in a zone or a quadrant at the same time. So for example, Ridley, not to close 12th and then those 2 bridges on Emmer at the same time. Close the 2 bridges on Emmer and then move around. So that's what was instructed as well. They are going to be moving on multiple bridges, but there will be a certain amount of sequencing that we're going to try to do. But it will be a full closure on the bridge as well. There's just no way that you can run traffic. Our bridges aren't wide enough to be able to do it. On the interstates and highways, you see that, but you can't, it's not possible on county roads. So, but yes, I agree, the polymer, but I just wanted to put that out there. This was the higher price. And the bid or the motion that you have is actually for the higher price, at least to start working with there.
Motion 2019-30A, based upon the recommendation of the county engineer, move that the bid received March 16th, 2020 by PVX Corporation of Tulsa, Oklahoma in the amount not to exceed $1,129,491 as per bid document for the bridge deck repairs and resurfacing for 6 county bridges, number 24, number 35, number 244, number 106, number 116, and number 165. Funds to be paid from the special bridge fund.
So moved.
Thomas moved.
I'll second Cody.
Dawn is seconded. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0.
Okay, thank you. I'll just move a few things away here. Okay, now this would be information. This would be the landfill. So cell number 4, I have asked, it was March the 9th, by motion that you would approve for the quality control, quality assurance, the QCQA. That would be for Blackstone Environmental. And then I would sign all the documents for that contract. So at that point, I also said that I would bring you back and let you know what the price is. And so they have provided me the documents. So we're looking at $63,200 to $75,000 is what we're looking at this point. There's a lot of variables that go with that, going back to the original discussion, is do we have enough material for that clay liner from the borrow area that we've used before, or are we gonna have to do additional sampling? If we don't have the amount of material, we need to look for someplace else for material. There's gonna be additional testing there. If we don't have the same material that we used when we built cell number 3, doing a bot well test, then they're gonna have to do Shelby tubes. So there's additional tests. So there's a lot of variables that kind of change that price. And that's the reason why you're seeing 63 to the 75,000 is trying to account for those variables. So I have that. If the number goes above the 75, then what I'll be doing is visiting with you and explain why it's going up above the 75. But I'll be letting you know as we start the project. But that was information, so I'm passing on that one. The next one is, we had a pre-construction with Folsom Brothers. They are the contractors doing our guardrail. We are expecting them, they have a notice to proceed starting April the 6th. The county plans to start work on March the 30th. Keeping in mind, our part would be to take down the guardrail up to the bridge, and we're to do also the shouldering work as well. So we're going to be doing the graveling, the shouldering on the plant road. Then at that point, what we're looking at is we're going to start on the north side at that point, and then they'll come in, they'll take down the guardrail at the bridge, then they'll start laying the new guardrail from the bridge out on the sections that were done. So it's trying not to necessarily be in their way, but trying to work at the same time. We are looking at doing the work on the north side, get most of the work finished before they come in. And then once they come in, they'll finish the north side, and then they'll step away or be gone for about a week. And then we'll work on the south side, and then we'll take down the guardrail and do the shouldering on the south side. And then they'll come back, and then they'll finish up on the south side. They're pretty fast. I mean, if you've seen guardrail folks put down, they have equipment to put it down. They can actually within 1 or 2 days do one whole side with confidence. The other thing we're looking at for safety is we're going to actually, we looked at some pricing on some portable traffic signals. So you have seen some of those here last year. Actually, a utility used them over there on 12th, there by Gridley. They had it was a high pressure gas line that they were doing some work on. So we had those, we had them actually rent these traffic lights. We're looking at doing the same thing. So on this particular one, what we'll have is during that time that we're there, we'll have the traffic lights up, allowing only one lane of traffic to go through on the plant road. And then when we're finished, we'll have those lights flashing yellow because the guardrail is going to be down, but we'll have cones and different things, protective measures up. But we'll have those lights flashing yellow at that point. So the whole operation for the whole month will be for the county and also the contractor. And in submitting that idea, the contractor in the pre-construction went ahead and offered to make payment on the rental of these portable traffic lights. So originally they go for $5,000, but for the county, KAC is crediting the county 1 week. And so that'll be $3,750. So we expect the contractor to reimburse the county actually that rental fee because we're going to be putting up the traffic that goes along with it. And he saw that as a benefit for his operation as well. And he also had some costs in there for traffic control that the right thing was to say, we'll partner with the county and pay for this cost. So we'll have the initial expense on that, but we also are expecting a reimbursement on that too from that pre-construction meeting. So that takes care of that. Is there any questions on guardrail? Good. Then, what I have is a road closure on Oxen Lane, between 8th and 9th. This is Mr. Rohr's property. That one's gonna be closed for quite some time. What we have is the river's actually has eaten away on that embankment. We know it's been a problem for quite some time, but it actually has undermined underneath the road as well. And so the long-term fix actually will be to work with Mr. Rohr to acquire additional right-of-way and then move that road back to the east. That's really the only way that we're gonna be able to do that. Now, of course, we can put rock, and of course, we will put rock along that embankment. I see that, but I'd also say too, nature's kind of moving that way. It's been doing it for years. And so the only thing that we can do is move away from that hazard. And so that's gonna be closed for a while, but Mr. Rohr is made aware of it, and we made arrangements to meet with Mr. Rohr later. Work on that one.
Do we really need to put rock in that embankment? Can we move, if we're gonna do it, move the road back far enough that let nature take its course on the river instead of trying to block it?
We could. It's gonna be how much Mr. Rohr allows to go back to the east. I mean, we're working it with it as an agreement for additional right of way, but I would say at this point, let us survey it and then we'll come back and have that conversation, what we can do. It will take some large rock. I mean, it will do that, but there's also some availability too, and I'm kind of overextending myself a little bit here just to think outside, but we do have the runway project, and so there's going to be some big slabs of concrete that might be available. So I'm not for sure if it is or not. I haven't checked on it, but there might be some of that. We can help armor that embankment as well. But what I hate to do right now is to think that we can armor it and then open the road back up. That's not necessarily a possibility at this point because it has undermined the road, and there's no real way to fix that other than to move the road. So.
It's going to be difficult to analyze just exactly how much is undermined there. Most of the trees are gone now, so it's going to keep cutting and cutting pretty quick.
Yes.
But on the east side there, that's where they've got a lot of their equipment parked that they haven't used for some time because they've had their ground rented out. So there's very little resistance moving that east because the trees are all going to be gone in a not too distant future down the road. So it might be a good place to put some of the airport runway.
You already got a permit for nothing?
Not at this point. We're kind of way ahead at this point. We found that it was undermined, so we had to close the road. And so as far as the fix, it's coming down, and I believe we will have to visit with the agencies, and we're going to be dealing with the Corps of Engineers, Division of Water Resources, try to find a solution. There's also possibly too, is with the FEMA funding, is look at maybe a project there, is they can see that they might be able to participate in, because this is kind of an ongoing thing. Every time it floods,
Did cut away for twenty miles.
mitigation is of some sort, mitigate the issue or the problem.
Is Planter Road run straight through there, a half mile east?
There's a half mile where it doesn't run through.
Yeah, I'd have to take a look.
Maybe also while you're researching, I'd like for you to look at maybe running Planter Road through and improve Planter Road. I realize it's gonna be a little bit, it's a half mile. Instead of trying to rebuild a whole new road, it might be better to take our existing and rework them.
It does not run through the farm.
Does not.
I don't think it would take a lot to put that road. I don't know whether it's legally open or
Is
not.
it a right of way or
Well, I'd have to look in the books to see if the right of way
Check
exists,
some of that.
at least in the.
check that out while you're doing all this research. Let's look at that prospect also.
It's a good point. We'll bring the options to the commission to let, because you're gonna have to be part of that as well, because if there is any additional road alignment, you're gonna be part of the right of way, acquiring the right of way process.
See, I think on the east side there, you only got two landowners there for that mile stretch. You know, the Rohr's on the quarter to the southeast, and I forget the Suresics farm the quarter to the northeast.
That's correct.
I know that we had the same thing happen in Leroy 30, 40 years ago. The riverbank was 50 feet, maybe 100, maybe even 100 feet from the road.
Mhm.
And that road had undermined the gravel. You couldn't see nothing back 70, 80 feet, and that road totally collapsed after Dennis Crotts drove his tractor across it. It's a wonder he didn't lose a tractor and possibility of life there. It's hard to tell how far that's undermined. That river gravel being washed out.
Mm-hmm. And that's where we were.
So Bob may be right. Take a look seriously of moving that road, because it wouldn't cause much inconvenience for anybody.
And that might be the better solution, to actually just look at planar, like you say. We're gonna take a look and see. At this point, we found a hazard that we needed to address, so I'm advising you that we close the road. Okay, construction zone. Let's go construction. Construction zone didn't change too much from last week. Just due to the weather. We're kind of dealing with that again this week as well. We are washing the bridges. They should be finished up with those. We are burning a lot of brush. We are getting ready for the asphalt season. That meaning ordering supplies for the crack filling. We're also getting ready to once again help do the work on the guardrail as well. We're looking at chips right now for our chip seal program. There are some chips. It's a rock quarry that's just east of the county line, about 2 miles down there by the Leroy area. And so we're looking at those chips. But our initial test actually show those chips to be a lot smaller than what we normally use. So we're still evaluating those to say if we wanted to move forward onto them or not. But that's some of the work that we're looking at. We also have the salt, is Nice Trucking, Jesse is called, and he has some access to some salt. So we're going ahead and filling up the salt bin. Hopefully that we are done with the snow and ice for this season. But we are going ahead and taking advantage of the supply and filling up the salt bins as well. So.
You're gonna stockpile those chips at the landfill instead?
Well, at this point, if we can get if those chips work out at that quarry, I think that'll work for our chips in that quadrant, so we won't have to do anything. But what we will need to do though is if those chips work out, it'd be something a little bit different. Is what I'd have to do is come back and get a motion to buy the chips and the quantity of the chips that we don't normally do. What we do is we have a price per ton and we pay across the scale unless we stockpile it. But on that particular one, they don't have necessarily an operator. They're at the scale. What they have is you make an agreement to purchase this pile of rock or chips, and then you enter in that agreement.
Well, I guess my reason for asking that was other times you stockpile it near where you're gonna be working, so that at the landfill is gonna be near where you're working.
Where this rock quarry is, it's near where we're working. So we're looking at it as an option.
The landfill is, or the quarry is?
Well, at this point, what we're doing is the chips that are, let's go right around Burlington area. We're stockpiling those at the landfill.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you. Yeah, I apologize.
Thank you. No,
You're right.
No problem.
You're right. We're stockpiling at the landfill for the chips around this area.
Okay.
We normally stockpile chips down in the southeast quadrant as a general
Well, I know
rule.
you told me wherever you're gonna be working on getting as close to you.
Yeah.
You can, so that's why I asked that question.
And that's the reason why it's the Burlington area.
Thank
That we
you.
have. The other ones is we'll we can pull from those quarries for the most part. So, but no, thank you for reminding me on that. Okay. The next one is just some information that's kind of going around that's affecting us is the NACE conference. This was the National Association of County Engineers Conference. It has been canceled. And so Jeff, myself, and Ryan that were planning to go will not. And so we'll be getting refunds on the motel registration on that. So that'll be something coming back. And actually that's the coronavirus is affecting a lot of different operations that we have. That's just one of them. The other one's going to be the Kansas County Highway Association. We're expecting that one to be canceled as well. And so we're getting a few of those that's going on. I also received, and you probably have as well in your correspondence, a letter or memo from the Bureau of Local Projects. This would be KDOT, Bureau of Local Projects, Mike Stringer. Basically stated that they're closing all their offices and all the folks are going to either work out of their homes for the most part. So they have that going on. KDOT's workers, the ones that are in the field, the maintenance workers in the field are, as we understand it, I visited with Waverly, and we also visited with Yates Center. Jeff visited with Yates Center. And so what they said that they're doing is they have furloughed all of their folks home, but they are on a on-call type status. So they have different groups that are working, that would work if they were called out, that would respond to basically like a stop sign down or a safety issue. So they do have those kind of set up, but they are home as well. How does that affect us? Well, the KDOT ones, as far as, say, for example, even Division of Water Resources, Kansas Department of Health and Environment, all of these agencies are now either working out of their homes. And so it kind of slows us down a little bit. And I think it does for the whole state, but that's just kind of the way things work. So, for example, I was working on an approval to be able to go ahead and start moving the dirt at the landfill, which I had hand delivered about 2 weeks ago. And so I was waiting to get an approval on that. If that doesn't come, that may slow us down as far as being able to start on the landfill for cell number 4. So kind of have that one just kind of hanging a little bit. As far as Bureau of Local Projects, what they have is the bridge portal. They're not going to support their bridge portal. So if there's any bridge inspections and such, if it goes down, if the system goes down, then they will not do anything until they get back. So that's going to kind of be put on hold as well. So it kind of affects some of those things. It also affects some of the applications. They're not saying don't give the applications, but they're saying that basically it could kind of slow down that process a little bit. So we do have that. We also had in the department is we had a meeting. This would be the advisory group. And so the directives that we have, and now I would be asking that, and I'm sure you're going to be entering into some conversations of the operations of the county. And this is where I'm asking you to give me guidance. But where I have initially is from our advisory group is we have in response to the information that we were provided is a single employee per single cab truck or 2 employees per crew cab truck. So 1 in front, 1 in back. So we're trying to look at the separation. We also have go home if you're feeling sick, regardless of your present leave balance or sick or vacation. I'm not authorizing one way or the other, but I am saying if you're sick, you need to go home. Mine would be guidance from the commission is if there's anything beyond what their leave balances would allow or don't allow. That would be discussions you would have. No gatherings larger than 10 employees throughout the day and maintain 6-foot separation. And so what we're trying to do there is have that discussion that when they come in the morning or come in the evening, that we're not having that large group of folks gathering. So responding to that. We're also cleaning our equipment at the end of each work day and the surfaces acceptable to the virus. And so one of the things is Andy had put out an email saying you have some supplies or you're ordering some supplies.
Yes, I have more coming.
So whatever you have for us, when you put it out for our guys and cleaning all their equipment, we're kind of running low on stock for our end of it. To tell you what that is, I really don't know. Maybe a case or of the spray or something. Maintain general hygiene on yourself and the workspace of others. And then we also have for the landfill that we're not requiring to charge customers to sign the weight tickets. So as we give them the ticket, they don't have to sign it and then bring it back inside. So we're looking at that. Now the other one is I asked for your guidance on this one is we don't have a lot of traffic that comes in to the office. And so with that, is it possible to close the door and allow basically for them to call to make an appointment to come in? Or do you want the door open? But once again, we don't get a lot of traffic from the public. The only thing that I can think that we really get any traffic, and that would be the zoning side of it. And I know this is a different issue than what I have here, but there's going to have to be some discussion there too, is on the zoning. Can we actually have a zoning hearing with the guidelines that we're given? I don't know if we can. I mean, you got 10 members or close to 10 members with the zoning board and staff meeting in one location. I just need guidance on that. I know that's a little off from my initial question, but my question would be from you is guidance on yourself. Is it okay to go ahead and lock the doors, keeping a phone number available for folks to call in? And we can open the doors, let them in however we want to do it there. But
Do you have signs up kind of like we do here at the courthouse? Don't enter if you do, and if you need to contact us, call this number and so forth.
we took basically the signs that the courthouse had, and we made one as well. And it does have that. But it has basically the doors locked, but it does have that. Is that sufficient? I mean, that's what we're doing, is locking the door and then just saying stop, call.
Somebody comes up and knocks on the door, can you hear them?
I believe Heather can hear them.
So you can decide then whether or not what you need to do.
Be okay to lock the door then on that one?
I would think so. I don't think I have a good debate out of our office, especially in one traffic area.
We don't get that much traffic, but we can minimize that. I mean, that was one of the things we can do. The other thing is, and you guys are more up on it than I am, but the surfaces in which basically it can stay, like on plastic, is 72 hours, if I understood it correctly. I think that's kind of the worst case scenario with the plastic. We go 410s, and we would actually be starting like the first week of April normally. And so what I'd like to do on that is go ahead and implement 410s starting as early as either this week or next week. And what that's going to do is that gives you 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that you don't have nobody there. So, you know, you could help that situation. You don't continue to expose as you go.
A little late for this week, isn't it? Because you're already on 8 hours a day, so.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, ultimately what we'd end up doing is, you're not giving people very much notice to take care of things at the end of the day if we try to implement it today.
Right.
I mean, the best we could do is implement it tomorrow and then basically comp them for the time that, you know, they would have missed as far as the full 10 hours a day. But that's not what I'm asking. I'm just doing the math on that one, Bob. So next week would probably be the earliest that you could really do it. Start the 10s, so we would start the 10s next week. And then that way we give that 3-day extension onto it.
So moved. a week ahead of time, normal time.
It's only a week ahead, the guy, so it's not.
I would have no problem with that.
Do we typically do that by motion?
No, because it's really kind of a policy type thing within our department, because we're able to regulate policy within the big book. Now this one here, I don't know, it allows me to regulate that policy. I think it's a decision you have to make on this one is, if we take a look at what the state's doing, the initiative, the lead in which they have taken as far as saying, hey, nobody shows up, different things like that. I go back to, there is a fundamental need for us to maintain operations within our department. So anything I'm suggesting, I'm already saying that's covered. So the fundamental need is we must maintain safety within the county. We must be able to address safety within the county. So we have to be able to respond. We need to keep the landfill open, okay? Because we don't want trash along the roadway, all right? We need to keep basic operations, essential services open within the department. So that's a must. Everything and anything I say, I've already said that this is covered. So the other option would be is if you see an advantage into it with more information that you know that I do not know, is it possible to say, would it be to our benefit to only expose half of the workforce at a given period of time to work? Okay. So what that would mean is you would take the highway department and they would continue to address the safety needs. We would continue to address the contractor for the guardrail. I mean, we would just basically have a work gang that would take care of that, but it would be half of the workforce, ultimately where you're at. And so if you just make it easy numbers and say, okay, we got 50 folks, 25 of them go home for 1 week, 25 of them work for 1 week, then the next 25 come into the next week, and so on. So now what you have that 3-day separation. You have one work group exposed. You have one work that's at home. Okay. Now, persons say, well, they could still be exposed, right? Still at home. But what they're not doing is if they're exposed at home, they don't bring it to work because they're staying at home. Yeah.
The intent, yes.
The intent. The intent. So mine is just if you feel that that's something to be chewed on, then I'd ask, maybe take some time to just think about it just a little bit. But there is that possibility where we can maintain the essential functions of operation by also distancing the workforce. What you're doing is you're separating, you're not putting the whole crew to come in at one point to be exposed. You're taking half measures to be exposed versus not being exposed. So it's a thought, it's conversation. I wish you would enter into some conversation, and I'll be around. I'll hang around a little bit if it evolves.
7 or 8 of those are already blade operators who are by themselves every day anyway, so.
Yes.
I mean, that takes care of some, but I have no problem with going to,
If we need to
going
make
to
a
the
motion
10.
to allow Wayne to go to the 14 schedule early, I'd make that motion,
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
starting on 3:30 at the earliest.
starting next week.
Next week.
I'll say.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, and let them know so they can make plans for that.
They will. They'll know by the end of the day.
You want to take a quick break?
Yeah.
Okay, short break.
Good.
Our winds or cables had him. We got one I'm downloading it, it's have the notice on the side, and
Hello?
then time.
Foggy days? Yes.
But
Never know, you never know.
shut it down this morning, or restarted it. And I hadn't pressed it. He got it where it came up, days, the rest of the on the website.
Well, it's kind of funny on Facebook, they say, this is the time that the state ought to be out there packing potholes. Less traffic. So, but they're home, they're home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's something. The gas is low and there's no place to go. You know, that's unfortunately, yeah. Yeah. It will. I see some coffee. Do you mind if I get some coffee?
Go for it.
All right.
I
talked to one council.
Yeah, because it's gonna do it, well, we'll have to unplug the battery and then we'll have to unplug. Very close to the
Hey,
battery.
Randy, on.
That's what you get.
He's on, you see my medical bracelet? Yeah. I get on the elliptical and I gotta put my knee brace on.
Oh, hey, come here. So.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, yeah, that canceled.
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Oh, yeah, now, go ahead, yeah. I'll hang around. I don't know if there's gonna be anything. Can you believe it? I was scheduled, we were scheduled to be in Florida. Our airline tickets were actually, we were gonna be out, we were leaving Friday. We weren't gonna be back until next, so this Thursday. We had to cancel, they closed the park. So they give us a refund on the park, but the airline tickets, is they did a credit and they said, you must keep this number, because if you forget this number, then that money goes away.
Oh, no.
But they won't refund it. Well, they'll say you can fly some other day.
What airline? Southwest?
I think it was.
Yeah, because they usually do that.
They're the ones that get
They
it.
won't give you the money, but they'll credit.
They'll give you the credit. Yeah, so needless to say, Miss Haley was very disappointed. I understand. She really
You'll
wanted to
be
do
able
it. That's all we can do. That's all we can.
Wayne, Don before, he just said they're regrinding and reusing all that at the airport, so that's out.
Oh. Well, that takes care of those big pieces.
Yeah. Take care of that.
Well, actually, there was
Yeah, that's right, they were gonna.
they're gonna crunch it and well, I don't know about that. Would you get your rock, I mean, would your rock strength be lost a little bit there, or would you gain rock strength? As far as durability, I mean, obviously it has to be approved because they're more, oh, just for the base?
Yeah.
Okay,
Was mine.
okay. They're not gonna be putting it back in the concrete?
No.
No, okay. Yeah, you could do it for that. You could do it for that. Now, that, steel in that, runway?
No, yeah, I was doing it.
Okay, just in the, okay, just in the.
I forgot my pin.
When that river, they're south of Leroy, half a mile, where collapsed, the riverbank itself is probably 60 or 70 feet from where the road was,
Uh-huh.
and that thing dropped 20 feet. So you have no idea what is going on back in those cuts.
Yeah. Well, like you say, we have a couple down there by Easterville.
You know, that one around Easterville, they're going around to where the crossing comes in from the slough from Caldwell. That, in between there, that needs to be looked at pretty seriously, because it's cut that bad. We don't know what's going on underneath it.
Right.
We're gonna.
Yeah, I mean, what you saw is drop. It's worse underneath because it's already soft. That's just what's dropped. There's no question about that. We got a couple, the only thing to do is to move the road, and either you move the road a half mile, or you.
And that may be a good fix out there.
But all those people are gonna be using that other road. I mean, they're gonna have to go around and slow anyway, so not really used to it.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, and very tough, that's what yesterday, I don't know if he did that or not. I don't know what he did.
Go ahead. He's next, all right. Mark's next.
He had some other things happen after yesterday, they didn't come to that.
Was I loud enough? Did you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had somebody actually watching it. Make sure they're- Okay.
I got a trap there, don't you? You got a trap there, don't you? I did stumble over it, so. Yeah, we got through it, that stumble.
So you got this whole system doing both things.
No. No, oh, my allergies. Yeah, my allergies.
They shut down for fire. And yesterday they had live streaming for the first time. It worked out pretty decent. Yeah, we worked some great days, you know, but not very good without that.
I'm not saying this.
You might do a couple more.
Interesting or?
Nothing like watching reruns on basketball, 2008 KU championship.
Sport.
If you're ready, we'll get started back up again. Randy?
Yeah, are we gonna wait? Are you gonna? I apologize. Before I carry all my stuff up there, we're gonna just one from that first. When we get into the late stuff, wait till I get one. Okay.
Sorry.
I'm gonna go to the end.
He's still gonna, he's got two different things.
Oh.
We're gonna talk about one of
Yeah,
them.
we got two different topics. Just want to visit with the commission for their consideration, as I'm here as the Coffee County Lake Director. For your consideration, I've reviewed the usages over the last 2 weeks, and more specifically this past week. Without going into specific communities or areas, I'll just say that the vast majority of our users have been from areas in the state and out of state that have confirmed cases of COVID-19, as well as some of those communities have now instituted stay-at-home orders. Without talking about specific employees at this time. I do employ people that, for one reason or another, fall in the category of at-risk employees. I think it's in the best interest of Coffee County, while I fully recognize and understand the economic impact that this has. I think it's in our best interest that due to the large volume of users that are from areas, why would we want to increase the percentages or odds of exposure? We can't control where those people have been prior to coming to Coffee County Lake, where they stopped, who they've had contact in their own community with. There's so many unknowns, in my opinion, that we can't control that lead me to make that recommendation that we close the lake temporarily for short periods of time. I'm not asking that we, set it out for 45 days or anything like that. I recommend 1 week at a time. I would say start with a date of April 1st. That's a date that a lot of entities are using as a target date. While I don't know and won't theorize where we will be on April 1st, I think we should do small chunks.
Oh, we close it start Monday.
We can do it starting Monday. I don't disagree with you.
To me,
Well, I want to close it effective. I would like to close it effective immediately
Why can't it be closed?
until April 1st. And prior to April 1st, assess whether or not to close it another week. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I would recommend closing it effective immediately. But at the same time, I do want us as a county government to continue to pay those employees that were scheduled to work a wage. See what I'm saying? Based on our schedule, I don't want them to get laid off and then not have any income.
You have other work those employees can do.
That was gonna be my recommendation, that we pay them, and if we can utilize them in other areas, which we may very well do that based on some down the road discussions this morning, I would be willing to and I would like to use those employees that's not an essential function that has to be open.
Right.
I've looked at our contract with Wolf Creek. It does give us the right under our contract to make these decisions to temporarily close the lake. Obviously, Wolf Creek is doing things right now that we don't know about at this point that may even put directive down on us to close the lake. I have talked with Wildlife and Parks, Brad Hageman this morning. He is waiting for word back from his higher ups on what their official position would be. I will tell you his position is in agreement with me on the recommendation because they are part of the MOU and the agreements that are in place. I think we take action as a precautionary measure only and assess it after short terms. If we want to talk specifics, we can do it in an executive session and then come back in a public session. I think just out of precautionary measures, we should.
Don't we have painting and different kinds of cleaning, not coronavirus cleaning, but regular cleaning and stuff that can be done for quite a while out there with some of these guys?
We have other duties that we can use them for potentially, not to say like we would under normal circumstances, but we do have potential for either using them there, here, other things. And we should use them when possible, but if not, I think we should pay them. Those that are scheduled to work because they are part-time employees. We have them on a part-time schedule. Our schedule goes 6 months out. You see what I'm saying? We have a schedule that we can project a year out, actually. We should just look at that schedule. I should come back to you guys on a regular basis as to compensation, on what the compensation should be, confer with Wade about it, and go from there. But I think we do need to make some decisions based on the usage and what we're seeing.
My suggestion would be, because not only are we possibly creating a problem for our elect employees, but when these people are driving in from elsewhere, they're also stopping at At the convenience stores and other places, filling stations.
That's,
I mean, our goal as commissioners of Coffee County is to protect Coffee County citizens. So I'm not opposed to the lake closing effective today and being closed till April the 1st and then taking on a week by week basis. I guess if that needs to be a motion, I'll make that motion.
You know, with only April 1st, 7 days away, this thing is not going to be over in a week or 2 weeks. Then it's I'd probably suggest, instead of doing it weekly, maybe go to April 15th or stretch it out a little bit. That way you wouldn't have to change the date on the website. You wouldn't have to change the date on everything.
I don't disagree with you.
To me, well, add a little bit more to it than a week.
The minimum I would do would be April 1st, but I'm not opposed to stretching it out further than that because we are going to post it on our website, social media, the newspaper, and make sure people know that.
As much lead time, like Bob said, we have the responsibility. But the more lead time we can give those people that's coming in, I think we owe them a little bit of lead time.
I would completely agree with you. The conservative method would be April 1st, but a reasonable would be April 15th.
I have no problem with that, but I think we should evaluate it a week before the deadline
Sure.
and evaluate it for the deadline.
Not wait till the last minute.
Right. So, I mean, I have no problem with whatever date they want to choose, but I think we should close the lake. Give fish a chance to grow.
I strongly encourage it. Just, it's the right thing to do, and we gotta make decisions out of the abundance of doing the right thing.
I'll change that to April 15th if that needs to be for my motion.
So, the motion to close Coffee County Fish and Lake until, effective immediately until April 15th.
I don't think it needs to be in the motion, but I will notify our appropriate partners, Wolf Creek, the state, and make those notifications if you approve the motion.
Second.
Motion and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0.
I will take care of notifying our partners and doing the public release. Do you want that press release approved through Wade? I have one made up, but I need to adjust it a little bit.
Yeah, I would have Wade look at it.
Okay. Just so we're all saying the same thing and on the same page.
Basically, slower stop the spread of COVID-19. The reason everything's closing.
I will run it by Wade first and get, but I'll work with Rhonda on the website to make sure we update our website. And I'll use all appropriate avenues of media, et cetera, to make it done.
Perfect.
Thank you, guys.
Cody?
Yeah.
I think we need to make some adjustments here somehow. We're getting too many people in here, probably, like the governor says.
Governor says 50, actually.
Oh, 50?
Yeah, so that you maintain 6 feet.
As long as we do the social distancing.
Right.
I think this is awesome what you guys did down here today. I'll just say that. I think you're to be commended for doing it.
Thank you.
Connie, can you?
I call her.
Let's do her at the end, because that will require an executive session, which will take us down. And I think better practice would be to do that at the, so.
Well, Lindsay then.
Lindsay?
So if we, if we could maybe go a little bit out of order, Judge Wine is here, and he's just here for a few minutes, and I don't want to monopolize his time, but I think it's important he be allowed to have his time before the commission. I was gonna suggest it at roundtable, but
He's here and ready.
Let's have him.
Thank you, Chief.
Step up, Judge.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just wanted to give you folks an update of where the courts are right now. The county attorney is, thank you, is going to be passing out an order from the Supreme Court, and we switched to emergency operations only. So we have closed to the public We still have staff that's working to answer phones and emails and take care of e-filings. But emergency operations are gonna be things like, if somebody's arrested, we're still gonna review a probable cause affidavit. We're gonna first appear them, if charges are filed. We're gonna handle protection orders, child removal cases will still be the initial that type of hearing. But otherwise, everything other than that has been ordered stopped by the Supreme Court for right now. It's indefinite. I don't know how long this will last. We were told though that after a couple of weeks, they're gonna take a hard look at it again and see where we're at. Here, what we've done, since the girls still come in the building, I'll let you know. We've halved our staff into two teams, Team A and Team B, working on 14-day rotations. So if we have somebody that shows some signs, we don't have to quarantine the whole office, we still have the other half. We've planned if we need to go to at home only, we've got some laptops that were ordered for this county, so we can still provide essential services for the public as far as answering phones from home, taking care of emails, and doing that sort of thing. So that's where we're at right now. I just wanted to let you folks know that, keep you updated. If folks have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Okay, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Just give us a quick sign. And then that's up to the one that handles protection.
Russell and Lindsay, if you're ready.
Good morning. Just wanted to give you all an update on the COVID-19 response at the state and the local level. Right now, there's 64 positive cases in Kansas, 0 of those in Coffee County at this time. KDHE is cutting back on their testing allowances, so the patient criteria we were operating on last week is no longer the case. Now the testing is being reserved for healthcare workers and first responders who have symptoms. Potential clusters of unknown respiratory illness, priority being given to long-term care and healthcare facilities, hospitalized patients with no alternative diagnoses, individuals over the age of 60 who have symptoms, with priority being given to people who reside in nursing homes, long-term care, or another congregate setting. And the last criteria is individuals with underlying health conditions that would be treated differently if they were infected with COVID-19. So we are no longer referring anyone with symptoms who meets the travel criteria and symptom criteria to the hospital for testing. There are 4 Kansas counties that, as of just now, that have implemented stay-at-home orders, and that's Wyandotte, Leavenworth, Johnson, and Douglas counties. Coffee County is not recommending that at this time. We are working with Dr. Shell every day. I'm working with Russell's office every day, staying in tune with the most current guidelines. Today we are anticipating a press conference with KDHE regarding child care licensing facilities. Up to this point, there have been no recommendations that they close. And so we're waiting to see if that guidance is changing. We should know today. Beyond that, we are fielding a lot of questions from the public. We get a lot of questions of, should I be concerned? Should I get tested because of a contact of a contact of a contact? We're fielding a lot of that. We're fielding a lot of questions from small business owners and restaurants, and working with Dr. Shell on his guidance on that. As you all know, the governor issued an executive order, I believe it's 20-04 last week, that prohibited large gatherings of greater than 50 people, and also, but she didn't allow a lot of exemptions in there. So we're fielding a lot of that, as it did not coincide with the president's recommendation of gatherings less than 10, and it didn't coincide with Dr. Shell's recommendation of less than 10. So we are fielding that as best we can. At this time, Dr. Shell, our county health officer, has made no orders to close anything. He's advising restaurants to do grab and go only, take out orders.
Did he leave his at 10 or did he switch it back?
In our discussion regarding churches, he is saying 50 for churches now. So, but at this time, I believe most of our churches in our community have gone to online services. The caveat to all of this is, especially even in Governor Kelly's orders, is if you have to maintain the 6 foot social distancing in order to allow services to continue in restaurants and churches both. So at this time, we're just working away. So any further things to add? Oh, actually,
I
I
have a
do.
question.
Yeah.
So governor's 50, you say Dr. Shell is 10,
His advisement.
advisement,
It's not an order.
but if the president says 10. So, I'm more faithful to the president than I am the governor. I mean, the president is the leader of the country, governor. So
And his-
what do we practice?
The governor's was in order, the president's is recommendation.
Okay.
And same with Dr. Shell. So, and I just heard back from him, he does not want to change anything that we're doing right now. We have made 3 different resource requests of the state and have not yet been provided what we've ordered, so we are waiting on that. We hear it's coming. Those were not for my office, they were for our partners that need supplies. We have also, I guess.
On that one shipment was shipped, that it was shipped to the wrong place. It was shipped to Pratt EMS in care of Jared Schulte. They're going to appreciate that.
And actually Jared made that request himself. The ones that I've ordered, I haven't heard anything on. So Courtney did work with us. He did get the cell phones I ordered for my nursing staff so they can work remotely. Brad with IT has been amazing at working with us to be able to remote in from our computers so we can check for lab results and check our emails and stay up to date that way. So that has been very nice. And we have changed our nursing hours in the clinic. I did stop all immunization services for babies because those appointments take longer than 10 minutes. So we can't meet the social distancing guidelines there. And we have stopped blood draws as well because again, they do take longer than 10 minutes. But for our other services, we are able to continue those. They're fairly quick and fairly, we can get people in and out. We are practicing social distancing in our office between staff and during meetings. And I feel at this point, the health department has taken as much precaution as we can and people are adhering to it and it's working well for us to stay operating as we are right now. In addition to that, I think you had a couple other things, right?
So, depending on what you guys decide today, the state wants us to let them know they want to be able to populate this map more. And I just need one. So down there in the lower left is the things they want to know, what actions we've taken and stuff. And then this is another map they put out that one county has put travel restrictions to the KC metro area. Now, I emailed it back to find out specifics, whether that is county employees or if their health officer put out an order for their citizens not to go to metro area. But I've yet to get a reply to that. And this is the most recent common operating procedure or picture that we put out once or twice a day. And of course, we have a chance for severe weather tonight. And when it rains, it pours. And so like Todd had concerns about recycling, and to my knowledge, they still haven't put out any guidance on, whether like recycling should continue to operate. Cody asked me to go around last week and I talked to all the departments in the courthouse about whether you know, they thought we should lock the courthouse down or leave it open. Most everybody was comfortable with where they were at, each office taking their own precautions. And I believe that's still Lindsay's recommendation. Leave the front doors open, but each office, you know, take the precautions they feel necessary. So, I mean, that's my recommendation, along with Lindsay. So, you know, we need to know, one thing we need to know from the commission today is what precautions you want to take. You want to leave it like they are? You want to lock the doors or post somebody at the door to screen, but I don't know who that would be. You know, what does the commission want to do, or what questions do we have to help make that decision?
I would also add, if you would like to implement a screening tool for each employee to self-screen for symptoms and travel daily, we can do that. The hospital has shared theirs, and other businesses in the county are utilizing it as well. So if you'd like us to implement that, that's maybe the next step. One thing that we're not doing that we could do, so.
And we're using that, dispatch is using that to screen calls so that when the first responders and ambulance go out on the call, they've asked those questions and can red flag a call, if you will, the first responders need to put on an ambulance crew. And law enforcement needs to put on the extra protective equipment there or not.
And I intend to address the commission on the sheriff's office in those areas this morning as well.
I would like to also address both commission on my concerns for my office.
So,
I don't know if you have any other questions for us right now.
Well, I think what you've done has been pretty commendable. I think we're from setting on in some phone conversations with other Southeast Kansas, and I've been on with the board of EMS and so forth. I think we're kind of ahead of the game of a lot of other groups, so I think you guys are doing a good job so far.
So from the map that the state's asking to be populated, those are orders, not recommendations in those counties. And that's what they're looking for, who's actually taking action versus stringent recommendations.
And like Woodson County Friday, they made the decision that Monday morning they were gonna lock the courthouse doors and do the phone and back one down. This was the decision they made. But again, that's not, as of right now, that's not Dr. Shell's recommendation on mine.
Any other questions? I do want to give Russell and Lindsay and both of their departments and the whole county, all of our county employees, a big thank you. I know this is difficult. Nobody's ever been through this before, but I think our employees are doing everything they can to help slow this down. And I know a lot of people are putting in extra hours, extra time, extra resources to keep our citizens safe. Thank you.
I will add, one thing that is coming out of this, the schools are creating their plans this week on how they will proceed with continuous learning in Coffee County and across the state. And their plans do have to be approved by the county health department health officer. So Dr. Shell and I did give them our recommendations. And again, that's that only groups of 9 and under be allowed to convene, and as long as 60 can be spaced in between. So they are going more strict right now. They are going with no, I know USD 244 is going with no face-to-face for 2 weeks in their building. So they are allowed to go more strict than our recommendations. But we wanted to give them some general guidance on how to begin the planning process. So that's where we're at right now. If things change, we'll definitely change with it.
And I know SCC schools evaluating everything there this morning. And I know Jeff told me yesterday, no more than 10 students, or 9 students plus an instructor, is where their policy is going to be.
And on that note, and Brad can probably speak to it more than I can, but I know they've been, Brad's been working with the some of the different internet providers to try and boost the internet availability, especially those citizens that don't have it. And like one request they made was to mount a hotspot on the JSB building up at 75 and 50. And I said, yeah, that'd be fine. I don't know if you have it. And I told them about, the Corps of Engineers had a radio tower, I know that was available. I don't know if they acted on that. I think Brad conveyed that information to them. I don't know if you have anything else there on that.
They are still working on it. It's still planning.
But, it's our intent, to assist them on that as reasonably as we can. I mean, as far as location and stuff.
Thank you, guys. Karen, you said you had some comments.
All right, I am concerned about leaving the front doors unlocked strictly because, last week, the numbers that I could get, we went ahead and did 181 transactions. I can't get that down I couldn't get that down into the number of people, because some people may be able to come in, but we did 34 title transactions, which means we had 34 people, more than likely 34 different people. I have changed the way I'm doing things. Just keeping them 6 feet away was not working. We are now making them do an appointment. That has worked better, but my concern is that if I have 34 people come in this week, and I don't have them where I can go get them at the door and bring them directly to my office, then they come in the building and they walk up the stairs and grab the handrail. Then they come into my office and they go, oh, I meant that I needed to go to the extension office. So they go down the hall, hold on to that handrail all the way down. Then they go, oh, I'm going to use the restroom before I leave. Then they're in there. So now we have had them at 30, we could have them potentially, all 34 of those people could have been at 4 places. So I would recommend you lock the door. We set up appointment only, and my staff is willing to go down and get them at the door and find out. We're still asking that people do all registration renewals, either drop it in our Dropbox, which Angie has got us an outside box ordered. Obviously, we're hoping to have it in about 10 days.
I told her it was a rush.
But with shipping and everything, we don't know. But if we can ask people to put them in the mail to us, go online and do them, all of those things. Obviously, title work isn't. We're waiting to see what the governor will order as far as will there be any extensions given. So we're waiting and hoping to hear something today on that. But I would like to see us lock the doors just for the simple reason then I can walk that customer in, take care of them, and walk them back out. So that would be my recommendation. And Cody, I know I emailed it to you last week. This is a map the treasurers put together showing what offices are doing as far as there's some that are closed with no services, some that are open as usual, and closed. The red ones are the closed to public, but they're doing appointments and things like that. And limited access is doing like we were last week, but you can see that this kept changing. Like on the average, 3 to 5 would go to a different level daily last week. So, like I said, I think we need to take into consideration that our office is the most heavy, the most heavy traffic does go through our office. So I appreciate if you take that into consideration.
Thank you, Karen.
You just need drop boxes? A drop box? Is that what you're saying?
Lindsay, do you have any comments on that? I know your recommendation is totally different. So.
I guess if we would just remind employees that as they are out and about in the courthouse to to do proper hand washing and to not touch their face if they are using the handrails. And then to make sure that the staff is cleaning, which I know they are, so, that's,
Would this be an opportunity to use some of the lake personnel, as Randy's thinking about, as we're shutting down Coffee County Lake, would it be to have those guys be standing at the doors, doing somewhat of screening? I mean, this suggestion, that'd be helpful. I mean, if we thought along those lines, I mean, if you think about shut the doors of the courthouse and make limited access, we need somebody at those doors, and we got lake personnel basically with nothing to do. Is that a possibility?
I'm open to being a team player, whatever we need to do with personnel and services. I don't know if this is the time, but we've worked diligently all weekend. I've had my supervisors in here. We're looking at the corrections recommendations, law enforcement recommendations, communications, admin. And so we're instituting a number of things that kind of lead into that, as far as we're closing our lobby to the sheriff's office for outside people coming in.
Again, I'm just posing a question.
I agree.
And food for thought for everyone here, just, you know, if that's the direction we're headed, that personnel would be something we could utilize at the doors.
Well, my
Somewhere
concern,
screening.
my thing, and I thought of this, looking at Don back there. Instead of locking the doors, maybe we could have those guys running around with these, just walking through, keep cleaning handrails and everything. Or have them there as those type of deals. You know, I think it's a very serious situation, but we're still responsible to the public here. I mean, life's got to go on, people. It's not the end of the world. So I'm not sure what the solution is, but we can't just lock the world up.
Oh, I agree with that, but I understand Karen's concern too. 34 people we don't know.
Other than I'm looking at things from a little different perspective, while we've had some very animated discussions all weekend about this. I am looking at things, the fact that I've got essential personnel and essential functions that I have to maintain 24/7. Communications, I've got to have 911. That is the link to the community. So I'm doing safeguards for that area above and beyond what would general public recommendations. Same thing for corrections. We're making adjustments there. I think it's, you know, I am instructing employees and recommending to them, because they do play a vital role, not to go to communities where they have the stay-at-home orders in place, because I'll just say I did have an employee that did go to one of those communities, and I discovered it and dealt with it. But my deal is I've got to take precautions, because if I lose one jailer or he comes to work and I don't track and prevent, see what I'm saying? And so I am doing things like Lindsay has recommended. You know, we're doing temperature checks on our jail staff, things like that, just out of precautionary measures and safeguards. And I think that's important. However, anything I'm doing that affects our services, if there's an alternative method, we're using it. Such as we're closing our lobby to the public. However, I'm going to give them an alternative method in which they can call. We'll handle their issue and see what I'm saying? Yeah. I think that's important, that we continue to serve the citizens. But if we can find out every court, I'll just say from my research over the weekend, talking to sheriffs around us, all the courthouses have either closed or restricted access.
And that's where I'm going, as far as using your lifeguards at the doors to say, well, Karen's already got one person or two persons up in her office. You'll have to wait for, that's just a suggestion, not a request.
And I'm willing to work with Lindsay and the other officials to, if we can implement something to address everybody's concerns while still being able to provide services.
Exactly.
I think we should. I think we should try to do what we can do while taking precautions and minimize exposures when possible.
But that's what we got, 3 access doors.
Absolutely.
So, lake guards, lake tenants could have
Right.
at one given time, but.
And that's-
where they could be.
And that's kind of what we're doing with our lobby area, where we're gonna restrict access. However, we're gonna use those personnel to help. I'm working, just one of the things we're working on is try to establish maybe a call number that if people have non-emergency requests, et cetera, for the sheriff's office, instead of tying up our communication center, is fill those calls with other personnel. So that, see, I think, try to find things that, Bob, I agree that we will get through this, but I think we also I have a duty and responsibility to be able to continue to enforce the law, provide those services and keep people safe. So I'm gonna take additional safeguards for my employees so that they can still get, because if I lose one deputy, that has a major impact. I lose a dispatcher, then I've got to track who they've had contact with. If you look at, like Wade and I talked this weekend and Friday, if you look at, for example, while it's on a big scale, Detroit Police Department, they initially had 4 officers that tested positive, which initially took, I think, 96 officers off the schedule and self-quarantine or quarantine. That number's now up to 156 officers that they have off the street. Scale that down to Coffee County and apply something similar with just 1 officer out of 12. It has impact. So some may view my actions as extreme or drastic. I don't, because I know the severity of losing any of my people and the impact it has. So.
Well, I just want to say this, kind of what Tom said, kind of what I said too. I mean, life goes on, but as far as locking the doors and just, that's it, no. But I kind of agree with Tom. If we have these extra people who can stand at that door,
be glad to help.
and then find out, and then they can actually call that office if they need to. My point is, you have somebody call out the door and they call somebody, well, then you've got an employee running all the way through the courthouse. But if there's someone there who can direct them or whatever it needs to be, or find out what's going on and limit them, that might be a different avenue. But as far as just locking the county down, I'm not sure that's the answer.
If we get recommended to do so, then.
We have no choice.
I agree.
Choice, but at this point in time, if you're closed, Wolf Creek Lake, you got personnel available, they man the doors.
I think your thought or suggestion, Tom, is well taken. You know, we've got 5 or 6 employees at the lake, to me, can provide that service, and strongly suggest those citizens that come from 20 miles away, they came to do their business, they ought to have the opportunity to do their business, but strongly suggest to them, only go to where you absolutely have to and get in and out as quickly as you can. And I think we'd have the opportunity to have a messenger there that can convey that message.
Well, then that would help Karen's office only get
And
1
Karen-
or 2 persons in there at a time, or.
Look, and as an example with what Karen's done, I'll just say, like on new vehicle registration, some of them, and a lot of them require a BIN inspection that my office does. We talked with Karen's office on Friday, and so we're working together. So when that person makes an appointment for a new vehicle registration and they need a VIN, they're gonna call our office, and then we'll make arrangements to either go to them and do the social distancing, that sort of thing, versus them coming into our lobby and sitting in our lobby. That's an example of find alternative methods when possible, but don't disrupt services to our citizens, but try to maybe at least reduce the odds in our favor.
Exactly.
That's my thought. I mean, and we're doing that in the jail. I'll tell you, we're not allowing visitors to come visit in the jail, but as an alternative, I'm issuing inmates phone cards so they can talk to their kids, talk to their wife. That's important. They still have to have that bond with their kids and stuff. So versus the kids coming in on Sunday and visiting with dad in jail, we're doing it via phone. I think that's everything we're trying to do, is find those alternative methods. I will say with the increased precautions we're taking, I'm going to make an official request today for additional supplies that we're running into over the weekend, like for alcohol prep pads, because we're doing increased thermometer checks so that we can clean them. We have a very limited supply. So we will be making those requests for sanitizer, things like that. That's on my list of stuff. I do have personnel available to help in other areas to an extent.
Have you looked at maybe a non-contact thermometer?
We're trying to get them.
Okay.
We can't get them right now. They're 30 days out.
Their actually order date is the end of May.
Okay.
We've been trying, we looked at them, the thermal type ones. Every vendor we've been able to talk to, they're a minimum of 30 days. I do have vendors that I'm trying to get supplies through, but my deal is they're making a lot of promises that I don't know that they're gonna be able to deliver on because they're telling everybody the same thing while raising their prices tremendously. You know, just like as an example, the N95 mask that we ordered, I'm keeping on top of that. You know, his original promise is 1 to 2 weeks. We're a week into that now. I don't expect they're gonna show up because he's made that promise to every other sheriff in Kansas and probably throughout the nation that he's gonna deliver these items. I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket for supplies. I can't and run out. So we are trying to use vendors, but those vendors are struggling to fulfill those orders on our side, on the private sector. You know, rubber gloves, I was paying around $70 a case. They're $200+ a case, and I'm limited to 1 case a month. We already ordered our case this month. I can't get them through my vendors. Those are just examples.
Yeah.
So what would you like me, as far as Coffee County Lake, I'll just step back for now and let you guys talk about discussion, so. And then personnel.
Sharon, on this issue that we just discussed.
Well, it's
I'm
an
willing to
issue we're gonna have a
compromise.
lot of discussion about, and heard from other department heads, and I was gonna ask Brandy if she had anything to bring to that, and then, yes, we need to have that discussion between us.
Okay.
And then Brandy,
Todd's over here.
poor Todd. And as far as,
So, my greatest concern at this point is the recycling and curbside recycling. Okay. So curbside recycling, it's basically trash. So we're handling people's trash, and we probably have 800 residences that we pick up, recycling from. You know, we do this twice a month for each town. So we have 800 places that we're picking up recycling. We don't know where these people have been. I'm here to get an idea of what the commission thinks we should do concerning curbside recycling in particular. We've heard that the virus lives on cardboard for quite a while.
24 hours. Last was 72.
Okay.
But yeah, your plastics will be here.
So, what's the commission's feeling on this program at this time? Carry on as usual?
What are you thinking? You're evidently thinking something.
Well, I'm concerned, and that's why I'm here. So.
I'll just throw this out. If we don't, then what? Then where are we?
Well, then it would
where-
all probably end up in a
Yeah,
landfill.
then where are we gonna be?
Correct.
But that would probably only be for a few weeks.
And I'm not
Hopefully.
opposed to it all ending up in the landfill for a short amount of time. Maybe that's the answer. I don't know.
would this suspend just residential or residential and commercial, or like from the businesses and the schools?
So we pick up businesses 3 days a week, and then we pick up the residences twice a week, so. 99% of the stuff we get from businesses is cardboard. You know, some may throw in, some paper, or we may get some plastic bottles, say, from Wolf Creek, but.
But you aren't, correct me if I'm wrong, you said the other day, you said you aren't quite as worried about the commercial as you are the residential.
Right, correct.
And what does volume wise, what, is it 50/50?
We get probably more cardboard than we do.
Well, I mean, commercial versus residential. Tons of commercial versus tons of residential, about 50/50.
Probably about 50/50.
I understand your concern about personal, residential, I should say. I wouldn't have no problem suspending that, given what every other entity in the state basically is trying to curb this, exposure. And I would agree with your concerns. So I would have no problem suspending that at the time being. Again, that would free up some personnel to do other items at the courthouse. Or
It could be a
other
good way
ways
to do some of that.
that we could utilize. What those duties might be, I off the top of my head don't have it, but, you know, I see it being beneficial all the way around.
What about suspending the residential pickup and continuing a commercial cardboard or cardboard only pickup?
For the time being.
For the time being, because that does pile up at some places.
Oh, yes,
And
definitely.
I mean, it's not as an essential service as operating the landfill, but to me, I think it is something that is a great service to our people.
It is, it's very,
If you look at it, there is a risk there, but it's still a secondary risk versus having someone from the public come in the courthouse and open the door or go in an office. Not to minimize it, I mean, it is a risk to our employees. But it's much less risk than having the courthouse open to the public. It was just something to consider. I mean, I think we need to discuss this.
the longevity of the virus on the plastics, though, is.
And the
where my
plastics,
mind
right.
is going. I'm sure that's what it is.
And then, now that we brought that up, we do have a lot of customers that actually bring their stuff out to the recycling center.
And you just put gaylords outside, let them throw in what they want and not mess with it for, I mean, it might get wet, but is that really a problem?
That's basically, that's a secondary concern for me. The first concern is the actual going out and picking up the residential curbside. So it sounds to me like the other county,
Pickup,
pardon me?
I say if we suspend residential pickup, your drop-off's gonna increase.
Absolutely.
They'll find a place to take it. You know, if we knew this time frame was gonna be 30 days, we suspended
It would be
30,
nice to know what the timeframe is.
Suspended
but we have
30
no
days.
idea.
and everybody fully understand that. They would do something to take care of it. We may be here 60 days or 90 days or 120.
Correct.
Chances are it's gonna be 30 days plus, but that, everything's totally an unknown, uncharted water. So there's not a simple answer.
No, there's not.
We would want to suspend residential pickup for 2 weeks and reevaluate.
But if you do, I believe we're on the lines of his thinking that he'd have to suspend any drop off as well.
Yes,
Because there would
as
be
far as the
literally no difference.
employee risk side,
Yeah.
many times I've been in there, and it's there.
Well,
You still have,
the longevity of the virus living on recycled items is what I think is, in my opinion, right, is of concern on safe plastics, 52 hours, cardboard 24. Yeah. There's no easy answer for any of this.
And then, another concern of mine, a number of noxious weed departments surrounding us have either, one county has suspended all chemical sales, and several of the other ones, are now doing by appointment only. Well, my concern there is if you do it by appointment only, and that particular customer has been exposed to the coronavirus, Doesn't matter that you're doing it by appointment only, it's still coming into your office.
See, I go right back to that. If you close the courthouse and let one person in,
Yeah.
that's the same principle. I've thought that all the time, so. But, so I don't know the answer to that.
Well, I just wanted to, let the commission know of my concerns and we'll be looking forward to hearing from you.
So one thing I might mention is that, you know, your decision on the courthouse, if the decision is have the department head make the appropriate decisions for their department, because each department is gonna be different. And that would, for example, give Todd the ability to make the decisions he felt best for his department. And if 2 weeks from now, commission thought it was too restrictive or not restrictive enough, you could readdress it per department, because each department is different, the sheriff, you know, everything. So that would be my 2 cents worth. Depending on what direction you go with that. If you go, each department head make the most appropriate decision for your department, then Todd would, for example, be able to make the decisions he felt best for his department.
And as far as that goes, as we sit right now, and as we were last week, just like what Karen's done with her office, if Todd wanted to go to an appointment only at, for chemical sales, or even for recycle. I mean, that is.
Right. And could work with Lindsay as far as precautions on how could you do chemical sales, but take the right precautions, you know.
Well, God's chemical sales, somebody makes an appointment, tell him what he wants, he can set it outside, leave the money outside, and you're not actually getting into contact there.
Well, you are, because if they're gonna give us a check and it's got coronavirus on it, they're gonna hand it to us.
Make rubber gloves.
Drop box.
And then we bring it back and we, take it to the treasurer's office and we hand it off to Karen.
And then we take it to the bank. So now we pass it through how many people?
Well, and remember, we have 0 cases in Coffee County right now. 0.
Some of my considerations that I'm doing is, I mean, I'm what ifing, but those plans are sitting on the back burner only to be implemented if there's a confirmed case, et cetera. But some things Don and I talked about that might play into your discussion is, my only concern on lake personnel is I do have some that are high risk that I would not want to expose them if necessary, but I have some that may volunteer, et cetera. If so, we should provide proper PPE, the personal protective equipment. Maybe something for consideration, reduced courthouse operating hours. I could, other non-essential personnel, create a schedule to help maybe if they're gonna do by appointments, then have the, simplified checklist that, you know, like being screened. I know some counties are doing that. They're screening people as they make their appointments, say with the treasurer's office, and they come to the courthouse, they get screened before they enter the courthouse. If they answer affirmative on that checklist or temperature, then they're not allowed access. In fact, they're encouraged to talk to their healthcare provider as to what appropriate actions to take next. Maybe that's an option. If so, it's going to require supplies for consideration. Again, maybe some other offices, not only mine, have non-essential personnel that could be used as greeters. Call them what you want. Don't call them guards. I wouldn't call them guards. I'd call them screeners. You know, it's less ugly. But, you know.
There's like 5 or 6 basic questions. If they answer yes to any one, they can.
Yeah, I know some sheriffs now, when they are responding on calls, we're having our dispatch screen them, but we're adding, I will say, for those communities that have the stay-at-home orders, that is part of our screening questions. Have you or been in contact with or yourself been to a community, and list those communities out. There's just a handful right now. But what, you know, my what if that we've been what if in this weekend is, what if that handful grows to 25 counties? those are those are just good discussions we're having right now. We should prepare but not panic.
Correct.
That's where I'm at.
Correct.
We want to prepare but not panic and put things in place for the what ifs. So, anyway.
I say we do whatever we can until Dr. Shell and the health department tells us otherwise. I'm all for, putting screeners at the doors, when you're shutting down the lake, if some of those people wish to volunteer. Got 3 doors here in
Well,
Maine.
for that,
We can
what other
actually lock
counties have
it.
done, we
Yeah,
can
you can
lock
actually
it.
lock that doors.
Well, we can close it down to one.
One entrance.
We can close it down to one entrance. Then you don't have to have your screeners
Okay, simplifies
in
that.
constant contact to say, well, I let 2 people in, he let 1 people in, he let another person in,
Simplifies
and then
that,
you got 12 people sitting.
That way, we could maintain a log.
Right.
We have a log already set up and that may be applicable, and I'm sure, I think Lindsay or somebody said they've got a template or something. The hospital has a template, maybe?
The screening template.
A screening template. We have a log that we
Or
created,
log of visitors, yes.
a contact log for our officers, because when they, go on a call and come in contact, they're doing the best. EMS has done the same thing. When they go on a call now, they're limiting who goes in with them, first responders, and then EMS is logging
Who was there?
who went in, the first responder. We now have backed off. We're not gonna go in on those calls unless EMS requests or says, get the heck in here.
Yeah.
Just because we're all in agreement, that's the right thing to do to limit exposure. But if our guys do go in, they're to put on the personal protective equipment that we have available and use it. In fact, we looked at some stuff over the weekend on CDC on how to reuse some of the PPE. While not optimal, do what you gotta do. So,
The screening questions, we talk about people signing off on coming in. Somebody wants to get into the office, they're not gonna be truthful on those screenings. I know Allen County Hospital, they're not letting anybody in without answering 5, 6 questions.
right.
Yeah.
Whether they're filling out that accurately, but that's just the way people are too.
It is, unfortunately,
So
that's
you're not gonna,
society.
there's no way you're gonna eliminate all the issues. Just put a policy in place and follow the lead of Dr. Shell and Lindsay and yourself, and
Do the best you can with what
provide
you
the best
got.
service we can with as much limitation on contact as we can.
And just try to encourage our citizens to do the right thing, and keep sending that positive message out there that we can be the example of doing it right while not panicking.
Of those 37 cases, how many of those could you have handled without personal contact, Karen?
None of those 34, those were titles.
Those are,
Those are people that we could not handle otherwise. My concern is whatever restrictions we do now may save staff, because if we have to quarantine staff, there will be 0 services.
Right.
So I'm just saying that let's do what we can now.
Are you comfortable with what we're suggesting, that we have screeners and maybe only allow 1 person or 2 persons in the office at a time?
We're already making appointments, and we're only allowing 3 because there are 6 of us in the office. And we are not letting them bring anybody else if they have, even if you'd be surprised the number who are bringing in kids with them.
But I think it's important that, because Karen's office is doing one thing, I think you gotta know what the Register of Deeds office is doing, or the appraiser's office. See what I'm saying?
I think what you're talking about, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go right ahead.
But I think what you're talking about, limiting the one door, having somebody at that door, and knowing who we have in the building and where they're going, they're still gonna have to walk up to that door and say, I have an appointment with Traeger's office.
Right.
and that's a lockdown, but it's not really a lockdown because you have a person there monitoring it
Right.
instead of
And-
a total, Lindsay has something.
I would just also remind that if we are doing appointments, which most of us are, those still need to be limited to less than 10 minutes
Absolutely,
and or greater than 6 feet apart. So
absolutely.
you still can't have someone breathing over your counter. at your staff. You still need to practice these.
We're asking them to have a seat. Sometimes we're asking them 3 and 4 times, but we are asking.
And something I would say that we've done that, we say appointments, something we've done is we've created a unique appointment identifier number, like CFSO 0101. And that way we give that number to the person that has scheduled the appointment. And that way it's just a log, just one more thing on a log that you can put the appointment number on it. And it's a validation that they've talked to somebody and gotten a number potentially. That's just something we've done.
And so then the other thing I was gonna mention, I did a survey of all the Kansas Emergency Management Association members, and 27 responded, and just asked them a few questions. And one was, has your county increased measures to restrict access to the courthouse? 96% had done something, one said nothing. And then the next question was, have you limited access to only certain areas, but still allow the public into the common areas? 45% yes, 55% no. So basically 50-50. Have you restricted access to the entire building? It is currently at 77% yes, 23% no. And is your county using a staff member stationed at the door to screen people? Again, 50-50, 45-55. Has your county sent staff home in significant numbers? 78% no, 25%, 11% have sent a quarter of their staff home. 2 places, 7% sent half of their staff home. Nobody sent 75%, and 1 place sent more than 75% of their staff home for like a week or 2 weeks. Or that's the next question. If you have sent staff more than 25% of your staff home, how long have they been sent home for? 1 was for a week, 2 places for 2 weeks, 1 for 3 weeks, and 18 or 82% have not sent anybody home.
Something I would offer up at this time is I would be willing to volunteer Mike Roney, my undersheriff, to take on the screening process and security, since he handles my court security anyway and oversees that. He has already an idea on how to do screening and stuff. We're willing to take that on in conjunction with working with Wade to make sure that we're trying to be a good public servant to our citizens while trying to screen and protect our employees, and to some level still provide services, and have something in place today to put back out to you guys. If that helps.
We gotta make the decision first.
Right, exactly.
So we're trying to have that discussion.
Yeah, and we're willing to help. So.
Cody?
Yeah. What I heard earlier was, Judge Wing had said basically what they were doing was rotating staff in the court. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
What the treasurer's office just said was basically if somebody gets basically gets exposed to it and the whole staff goes away. Right? I mean, everybody would have to leave that office. Aren't you looking at, how can you maintain continuity? How can you maintain distance? It would seem like the district court kind of figured that one out. They rotate staff, so, half of them, if somebody does get exposed, you only basically expose half.
Your staff. Yeah.
And the whole idea on this virus, as I understand it, the success of it is how long you can spread it out. Because if you have it all at once, then that's where you're going to basically fail the health system. But if you can spread it out, allowing the health system to continue to keep up with what's going on.
The only thing the judicial system has as advantage, they've shut down all outside services basically except for emergency orders. Is that right, Yes.
Yes.
So that's something they did that plays into their 14 on, 14 off scenario. Is they're talking 3 employees total. And second, they completely shut off outside. In fact, we're not even having contact with them, any paperwork. Their judge, it's a box basically. We put the paperwork in the box because of the fact that the virus lives on, and so they've had orders not to touch any outside paperwork that comes into their office for at least, I think it's 72 hours, 48 to 72 hours. So that's manageable on a single office, small scale. But we've looked at the same theory, if we have to do something about 14 on, 14 off type rotation, so we don't expose all our people at one time if they do get exposed. You know, they'll take out all my people at one shot.
And it may not basically be something that each department can take a look at, but I'm just saying, if you're trying to maintain continuity,
Right.
it's just an option.
So the thing is with this, and
Good point. Have it.
so this is our discussion. Do we want to make a recommendation to limit access to the courthouse for one entrance, appointment only, screeners at the door? Wait,
And before you make that final decision, I'm gonna request at the tail end, we go into an executive session for discussion for attorney-client privilege. I just think that needs to happen before the decision is made. So,
is that a decision that we would like to entertain? Because there's a lot more discussion to it. But if it's something we want to do, obviously, if we do it and do it for a week, it's probably gonna change, and we're gonna have to change that recommendation, just like every office in here is gonna have to change how they operate.
I
And
think
it's
Wade
probably
has,
changed in the time we've sat here and discussed it,
I
so.
think Wade has something to say. I want to hear what Wade has to say, so. I think it's,
How long?
how long?
15 minutes, when we go, do we want to do that now, or do we want to do that with the tail end?
Do you, when do you think it's before?
Are we done with our Zoom?
Yeah. We have some other issues that we have that needs an executive session, and we're trying to hold those off till the end, so we can do them all at once. I think we're to that point.
Okay, Wade has something.
You know?
And I,
And the other thing I'd throw out, which I'm sure all of you are aware of, the issue of how to deal with, if it would get to, or if you decide to send some people home and they're getting paid, and other people are staying at work, you gotta deal with that too, preferably before the fact versus after. Whether they're using vacation or whether they're just not getting paid,
Yep.
the ones that are still at work.
I'd just like to say from my office, if it was the split thing, there are so many phone calls that are coming in that I think if I actually got a couple of cell phones, if I could just get like, I don't know, like a monthly contract ones or something, I don't know, I heard somebody else said they got some
That's a
other ones,
possibility.
then I could have people at home that we were just directing, our answering machine says, please call this number or this number. Those people at home could still be answering phones. Obviously, they wouldn't have, at this point, access to a computer because I don't have laptops for them. But at least they could say, no, they're only doing by appointment only. And then I could set up something so that they had access to the appointment schedule or something like that, or they could call in directly to another direct line to us or something. So just a thought for the long process.
The title work that your office does, Karen, is that about the only work that absolutely needs to take place in your office? Rest of it can be done by mail.
Not necessarily,
Well-
because if they have a registration renewal and it's expired, they don't have a way to do that online. They could do it in the mail, but then, have an expired plate. So we've been taking those.
Is
If
that
somebody
some-
needs a handicap placard, obviously we have to do that, so.
Is this something the governor needs to take action on and extend those title work for 90 days?
There's
To-
talk
to-
about that happening. The last message I got is there may be possibly something in, an executive order today. But I
To
haven't
me,
heard.
I would think they'd be able to come up with something to extend, license tags, you don't have to renew them now for a new vehicle for 90 days, used to be 30. To me, they could make some changes.
And I think they're working on that, but until that executive order comes from the governor, we don't, we have
Right,
to
at
do
this
what's
time, we're not
required.
talking about suspension of service, it's just making it by appointment.
Yeah.
And we haven't gotten anything
It'll
new.
change before we get it done.
It changed before we get out here today.
So,
I
We
expect
get
that.
periodic orders from the Director of Revenue, Department of Motor Vehicles, with just that thing. We occasionally get like on commercial motor vehicles, that they're, because they haven't got the stuff in place, anything due to expire during this time period is to be extended for a 90-day period and not considered to be expired. I foresee that potentially could come down.
I foresee that happening, but until it,
Hadn't happened yet.
And
and like I said, from what I heard, there may be something coming down today.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that they sent out a message a little bit ago that there's a big press conference at 4 o'clock today.
Yeah.
Supposedly specifically talking about recycling and like Karen said, they've been talking about it, the conference call about it on extending, expired driver's license renewal dates and extending, registration and extending some of that. Whether that comes today at 4 o'clock, I don't know, but.
so instead of speculating on it, let's wait till 4 o'clock. But in the meantime, we need to go into executive session with Wade for 15 minutes.
And I'm just gonna make a real quick comment on that. So when somebody they have expired registration, they come in contact with law enforcement has the discretion to issue a citation or not issue a citation. And if it makes it to the prosecutor also has discretion. So there's two different safety valves, at least in Coffee County, knowing the current situation. If I got it,
It expired this month or it expired last year.
And we've already had those discussions
But
with our
90% of the
deputies.
people do not understand that, and when those lights go on behind them, that's a whole other story for them. But, like I said, I mean, we want to keep things working. I'm not asking for, close my office and we're all going home. No, because I don't want to do that same amount of work that can be done for this 30 days. I don't want to double that up and do it.
Do it all next month.
I want to keep us going, but I want to keep us safe and the public safe.
I think that's everybody's goal, Karen.
Yeah.
Yes. Plastic bubbles.
So,
So my request is the commission recess into an executive session for consultation with county council or county attorney to discuss matters deemed privileged under the attorney-client relationship exception Tacoma. That's under KSA 65 or 75 4319 B2, and probably also because the camera is going to have to shut down, and we're going to have to open up a new session. And so there's no issue with when we reconvene, there is going to be no discussion of anything other than what's going on in this 15 minutes. If for whatever reason the camera does not come back on, and it looks like there's a space in time or a gap, and it's beyond the 15 minutes, it's not because the county was discussing anything after that 15 minutes. It's because we're trying to operate in an environment where we're trying to make sure that the transparency that has previously existed continues to exist and operate under the coronavirus and social distancing. So I just wanted to make sure that was stated. So if there's an issue later on down the road, it's not intentional. The goal is, and we have very competent IT person who's going to get us up and running as soon as possible, but if it's after 15 minutes, just the way it works, that's what we have to operate on.
Hey, Brad, it is what it is, right?
Yeah. Whenever you're ready, we'll shut her down.
So do the best you can with what you got.
I will make that motion for 15 minutes for the commission and wait.
Is there a second? Second. Bob has moved, Thomas seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Got what you got.
Opposed, same sign.
I think you've done a good job.
Motion carries 4-0. We'll go in for 15
Put
minutes
together and make
at
it work.
11:30.
Brad, let's turn this light off. These mics stop.
I'll power it down there. Right, well, we just shut it off.
I can do that.
Hey, Brad, this just popped up. Are you sure you want to end your stream? I'm not touching nothing.
And
I just happened to see